Coast to coast, border to border, and around the world, it's time for The Bill Alexander Show. The Bill Alexander Show is a guest-driven program where the topics are diverse and entertaining. Laugh and learn while you listen to one of the best hours of online radio. Now, here's your host, Bill Alexander.
Hi, everyone. Yours truly, William Eric Alexander. All my friends call me Bill, and welcome to this edition of the Bill Alexander Show. Have a real treat for you today because we're going to be talking to an actress whose claims she's been doing this for 25 years, but I don't believe her, just to let you know. On the other end of the screen right now, we have AIMEE CONN. AIMEE, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing real good. So you claim you've been acting for the last 25 years, and that means you started at what, 5, 6, 7 years old? How'd that work?
Something like that. Maybe add 10 more years to that. Yeah. I got into theater when I was very young through like dance, and was a very active child, very imaginative child. And so my parents put me in theater at a very young age and was like, this could be good for her. And sure enough, it was. I found my passion very early and just kept going until I started finding out that you could make money and a living doing it. So that was even better. So yeah.
So what do you think gave you the desire to do this? As they say, how did the bug bite you?
My earliest memory is honestly watching MTV videos, the music videos, and seeing the art from that, and just not understanding what that was. But I saw kids in some of them and thinking, oh, I identify with that, and I would like to do whatever that is, because that looks like so much fun. But it just resonated. Like it was just honestly calling me in to do something of the arts. My dad is a musician. He has a band, and he's been in a band for years. So I was around the band life and about the good parts of it, and also the music, the musicality. So that was in our household all the time. And I think just 2 + 2, equal 4 after that for me.
So which would you rather do, sing or act?
It's a 50-50 for me, because I love both mediums for telling stories through. That's the reason why I love arts in general and filmmaking. But I have focused mostly on acting and hopes to do more musical aspects of filmmaking or acting on stage with music. I just recently am starting to do more vocals as myself, especially during the pandemic, which allowed us to kind of get creative with our technology and our Smools and all that, those apps to do more music on. I'm slowly but surely starting to create my own music and just trying to get myself out there as just a vocalist. So it's kind of been a 50-50 part of my life aspect to it.
So how's that going for you? Like you said, trying to get more of your own vocals out there.
It's going. It's very vulnerable. There's something about the masks of theater, right? Where you put on the different masks to play the different parts. And I grew up doing a lot of musical theater in community theater in Santa Rosa, California, where I grew up, in Anchorage, Alaska, where I partially moved and grew up. And grateful for all of that. But when I started going out with like my dad just to do open mics at one point, being myself was really scary.
Right.
It's really hard. Like I give so much credit to people who can just be who they are as their art, as well as comedians who just stand up there and do the work. But that's been a journey for me. I've been working on imposter syndrome, which is a very real thing, of feeling like I'm not good enough yet to be out there doing it. I have to earn my way before I can announce it, type of thing. But it's not true when you enjoy it and when you have a passion for it and you're able to share that with, even if it's 2 people on the internet or in person, like it matters and it feels so good when you're in the moment of it. So I'm working on it, but slowly but surely.
So you mentioned that you live in Alaska. What theater scene is there in Anchorage?
There's actually an amazing performing arts musical scene in Anchorage. You wouldn't think it.
Really?
No, I know. People always gawk at me when they're like, really? But yeah, there is. Well, I was really lucky to live in Anchorage when I did live in Alaska. It was hard to move from California to Alaska at a very young age, but I look back on it now and I'm very grateful for the experience. But they have a huge performing arts center in Anchorage, like with 3 to 4 big theaters inside.
Wow.
I actually found out through that because I actually started doing Irish dancing when river dance was big
Mhm.
at a touring academy in Alaska. And so I got involved with theater with that, loved it, but wanted to do more acting. So then I got
Mhm.
involved with TBA theater, which is a theater out there for youth,
Okay.
and introduced me to a summer program. And my parents basically said, well, if you like this after this experience, then we'll support your idea of going into more serious acting or in music and such. And I did. And I loved it.
It's
And I'm so grateful because I think it really helped me figure things out for myself, but also keep me in a positive mindset because there were really dark days, like literally dark days
right.
up there, as well as just natural depression because of no
Mhm.
sunshine for so long. That it activated my imagination and it gave me self confidence and it gave me communication tools I hadn't had before. I'd been homeschooled 1 year, so I loved solitariness. I was very creative, but it's good to also, interact with people. It's
Right.
very healthy. So it really saved my life with figuring that out. And I give so much credit to a lot of theater, especially youth theater programs that do that for everybody.
So, I guess we could use this term loosely, but have you had any professional training?
I have, yeah. I after doing theater for fun and enjoying it for years as a kid, I eventually went to a theater arts program in the Santa Rosa Junior College,
Mhm.
in my hometown. Got my AA with theater arts and film studies, and then I transferred to. I was supposed to transfer to UCLA TIFF program. My mom became sick with cancer, so we had a whole battle with that, and ended up going to instead AMDA, which is American Musical and Dramatic Academy Conservatory.
Yep.
And I went to the Los Angeles campus for a year and trained like straight through. I didn't want any summer programs to end. I wanted just to soak it all up and get out there and start working.
So my audience knows that my oldest son is an actor, and when we talk about it, or when I talk about it, people ask me, "So what is he doing after college?" And you look, and they look at you, and you're trying to go, "Okay, so how can I tell him that he's going to be an actor? He's
Mm,
not starving. He's working. This is what he's doing." Because we have this impression that if
yeah,
you're going to be an actor or an actress, it's going to be a career that you may not have, but you keep striving for. And for him, luckily enough, he got picked up by a group in Virginia, and he's working. He's loving every minute of it. And he says, "Dad, this is what I want to do," and I'm very proud of him to do it.
sure.
How did your parents tell people? Now I know your dad's a musician, but
Right.
hey, my daughter's an actress. Did anybody give him that strange look on? Really, that means she's gonna struggle, is what it means.
Right. Right. Yes. Well, to be honest, who doesn't struggle though in our day and
Right.
life? That's a big thing too that a lot of people when we have a conversation about would you rather struggle through something that is miserable, gives you stress, you're not happy, it's you got to be responsible. Like I went to college because I chose to go to college to move down to Los Angeles because I didn't want to just pick up my luggage and hop on the next bus and take me to
Mhm.
Hollywood. Like that wasn't my goal. I really wanted to plan it out. But and I definitely recommend that for people to like save up enough money to, it's an expensive trade. You have to get headshots, you have to get, your agent commission stuff. Like there's a lot of things that add up. But I think for my parents, they knew that I was so passionate about it that I was focused on it. And it wasn't just a trend. This was something that was a lifestyle choice. This was something that was a part of who I am. I'm not going to be happy in my personal life if I don't find that out myself and
Okay.
make that decision for myself. Right. And this been struggled with my parent. My mom was always she passed away in 2009, so she was my rock and like really connected. My dad and I had our issues as wanting to me to have the best life,
Right.
but also knowing that you have to make the choices and the risks because that's life anyway. You need to have a not a backup plan. I hate that word. I hate that terminology because you don't need a backup plan if you know what you're doing, if you really want to do something. But you also have the right to change your mind. If something doesn't work out 10 years, 15 years later, maybe 5 years, it's your life. Maybe there's something else that you're passionate about and you want to try. A lot of people did that after the pandemic, right? Because they
Oh
just
yeah.
didn't live the same life anymore. But I think just being honest with yourself and knowing with, I think the parenting, the fact that my parents were just supportive no matter what. They wanted me to be happy. But even after La La Land, my dad's like, that's cool. It's like, they're just not in his real house. You know, like I love him, but he's a musician. His music is everything, just as my art, you know, a
Yeah.
compass, umbrella is my everything. It gives me fuel. It gives me love. It gives me everything that I need to keep going, even through the hardships. I mean, I don't, unless you're a 1%, you know, actor out there, the A-listers, people are going to have side businesses. People are
Right.
going to have, you know, whether it's delivering you know, Postmates and food,
Mhm.
where you make your own money. The fact is, try to find something that balances it out, because there's no shame in having a survival job or whatever they
Right.
want to call it.
Actually, I like that. I
Okay.
never heard a survival job before,
Yeah,
but okay.
it's like a terminology. It's not terminology, but like a lingo. But to me, it's a thriving job. It makes you
Mhm.
do, you know, allows you to pay the bills, the expensive bills we all have in different
Right.
ways, to do what we want and love, and be able to be in a stress-free environment to focus on that when we have the time, and time management, right? I mean, this is a business, so I say first and foremost, they call it show business for a reason.
Right.
And I wish that more art schools would definitely teach the business side more of how and what. I mean, it's always changing, because it's a kind of new pioneer age with tech now.
Right.
Nobody's really going in for auditions in person anymore. We're all doing it from like self tape at home. And it's weird. It's different. But as artists have done for centuries, you have to adapt to the times. And yeah, so I mean, back to your original question, I think it's just find what you love. And that's what my mom always told me. You have to do what you love, or, you know, what else are you going to do in life?
A
Just
f
live it.
a few
it
weeks ago, a musician, I asked basically the same question, and he said, "You sound like my dad right now." He says, "But I don't have a plan B, because if I had a plan B, that means I couldn't focus on my plan A. And
right,
for me to do this, I have to be 100% committed to plan A."
right.
And I'm going, okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. That really
Sure.
does. So I go through and look at your international movie database, and you mentioned you were in La La Land, just a small film that
Just that small musical,
not,
yeah.
not many people saw. Not that anybody said it
No,
was going
not
to be
really.
the revival of the musical or anything, but you did something that I watched, and I think
Okay.
I think you
Uh-oh.
had to have a special taste for it, because we
Sure.
know the one actor from what he's done on TV, and that's the Kelsey Grammer, Bill Zucker comedy hour. That is one of the most unusual things I think I've ever watched online,
Okay. Yeah.
especially Bill Zucker. I mean, I trying to figure this out. Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, he passed away,
Yeah.
but
Along with
it is just very unique. How did you get into that?
you know, I try to wrap my brain on it. It was so long ago now. When
I
I
was
first
only
moved to
12
LA.
years ago.
Yeah, I was
Jeez.
like 12 years ago. Like 15 actually now. But yeah, I met Bill through a mutual musician for my friend Joe Nielsen, who's a lyricist, and we're actually writing songs together right now still. But he was a friend of his, and we were introduced. And I was new to LA, and Bill was a wonderfully crazy and innovative, and I say crazy with love, like a good, crazy, innovative artist, that just loved to create and be in the limelight, and, you know, talk to everyone and all the celebrities. And we just hit it off because he was a hoot. He was just a great energy of just positivity and fun. And I wanted to be more on the creative side of filmmaking. So he was teaching me like how to do filmmaking as well. He was a pianist and a singer. He had his music out there that's wacky and fun as well. But I just really respected his creativity and his innovativeness. And I did that show briefly, and then we would go to events, or we'd meet people at events, and it was just a lot of fun. My first like year and a half, 2 years into the new age of LA, and I felt safe. It wasn't like a weird thing. It was really, really nice to have a friend that I could
Right.
actually count on and like work with on the red carpet, or, you know, meet new connections and networking, because the huge, you know, this whole business is huge with connecting and networking, and you don't want to waste your time, but you want to meet people, but you also don't want to waste your time with people who aren't there for the right reason, you know. So it was a fun, interesting time. And I do miss him, because he was always fun just to have a, you know, conversation with. Or he would play sometimes at a place called Nick's in Beverly Hills, where he was the pianist and singer for like an hour. It's like very New York type of
Mhm.
cabaret sometimes, some jazz nights, and just a different energy that you don't see a lot of anymore, unfortunately.
So a lot of the stuff you've done, and I think it's interesting how they title it, that they call it TV miniseries, and most of it because
Yes.
it's streaming services, correct?
Right.
As a lot
Yeah.
of this has been on, and I'm still wrapping my head around this
We
whole
all are.
streaming thing right now. And I've
Right.
talked to a lot of actors and actresses recently that said that because of their older work, it introduced a new audience to it. Now, your work is relatively new, and now you're competing for all these people to watch what you're doing in this vast land of options.
Yeah.
How do you decide what role to take to give you that exposure that you finally want to get?
No, that's a great question. And you don't really have control over that unless you are the A-listers that,
Right.
have the contracts and the right agents to do it with. But for us who don't have that yet, if any, I like to pick projects that are diverse and entertaining and fun. If I can learn something new or try a new type of character that I don't usually go out for, that's fun for me. That's like molding a sculpture. Like,
Mhm.
okay, what can we do with that? And I really just kind of let it be. Honestly, it's like if it works, great. If it can go out like I did the Once Upon a Time rock opera, which was an amazing
Yeah,
experience. It
I
was a
saw
creative content that I was
that
like,
was
oh,
very
I love
that
the idea.
was
I want to be a part of that. Cool. And then it blew up to be this like tour with unofficially, but officially with some of the conventions that lined up with the
Mhm.
actual cast members. And we got a hold and like knew the cast. They brought us backstage at times. Like it was a phenomenal experience and a great piece of art. But I had no idea it was going to do that.
Right.
You just kind of have to use your intuition and feel like if it's right for you, try it out. And again, it's a risk, and maybe it will work, maybe it won't, but I got a great experience out of it. So on to the next one, and then on to the next one, and just keep creating, keep that energy flowing and momentum going. And I'm always looking for new innovative things, like especially with technology. Like right now I'm part of this film series called Film Buff, excuse me, and we're starting to do like live streaming every Monday to talk about the art and love of filmmaking and films from all the classic eras.
Right.
And it's fun. So that energy really relates to other people, like just a good conversation having and going,
Mhm.
where they get more involved as they get to see you more and stuff like that. But yeah, as for projects though, it's really a hit and miss. You have to choose what's right for you.
Is there any project that you've been on that you really thought was gonna make it and unfortunately it didn't find an audience?
Probably yes. There was this one little web series, again starting at the very beginning, um called Lot of Long Distance, that I got to be a part of. It was about a down on her luck actress with a phone sex operation because she couldn't get a job during the recession in 2008. And I was lead actress and co-producer on it. And my friend from college, Dawn Melissa, she had created it, and it was brilliant. We won some web series festival awards, and people were starting to talk about it. It was kind of that middle beginning part where Diary of a Black Girl by Issa Rae was getting raved too, and that brought her to Insecure later on. So we were in the hustle and bustle of it. We were feeling it as creators as well as the actors. And then it just kind of didn't go anywhere because even though it was big online with a lot of like they had like different platforms back then before the live streaming started. Um, it just, was good on YouTube, but wasn't seen by the right people in the right age. And unfortunately, maybe we'll bring it back or something, but
Actually, I
unfortunately, you
think
never know,
I
it's just out
think you
there 10
should
years later.
because there is a scene in it, and I actually watched some of them,
Okay.
that you are practicing your name.
Uh-huh.
And she goes, "But you don't look like that." "Well, I don't have to. I'm on the phone." And
Right.
just the banter back and forth is just amazing because she's very dry and you're trying, and I mean, you can see the frustration with you trying to communicate what you're trying to do. And I thought it was very intriguing when I saw that. So,
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I haven't heard anyone talk about that for a while, so thank you. Yeah, it was a really fun acting bit because every episode was different, and I did have to play with different like character stereotypes and mentalities, and like at the same time, with the mirror scene.
Yeah.
It was fun. That's fun, to like figure out how do you do that in your imagination. So yeah, I applaud Don Melissa who created that, and I would love to get it up and running again. But maybe it'll be on like Amazon Video Direct. They're starting to put web series on there and stuff now too. So there's hoping, because we had a whole new season to start when like season 2, and then funding pulled out, a producer pulled out because of some personal thing, and just it just falls apart sometimes.
Right.
Some things don't work. It's not because it's bad or there's malice involved or anything. It's a living, breathing entity, and then it kind of just dissipates. It just goes away sometimes, unfortunately, unless you really keep it going, for yourself.
Because again, like I said, that was entertaining. It really was, because you gotta watch it for a little bit to figure out what's going on,
Sure.
and then once you figure out what's going on, it's going okay. And
Yeah.
there was one where the two of you are driving in a car, that made me remember. All I could think of is what we're seeing on TikTok right now. And I guess you were dancing or whatever it was, and that was the first one I saw, and that's what I'm going. Wait a minute. Then I watched a little bit more, and then I got it. Now, the other thing you were on too, which was what was it? The Bee in Apartment 23.
Don't trust the bee in
Yeah.
Apartment 23.
Which, the funny thing is, I love that program, and it was on what, 10, 15 years ago, something like that, and it only lasted 2 seasons.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry?
And I said it only lasted 2 seasons, unfortunately.
Right. What was weird is that, so they shot that in basically a year, but then they cut it up for a 2-part season.
Okay.
Because what was interesting, there's 2 episodes I worked on, and we shot it both like in the same week. Again, this is how filmmaking is, though. They will shoot out of order, and it's all weird, and script is all weird, and you just have to use your imagination to remember what's what. But they cut it up and then made it the next, like the episode I was supposed to be in the next season, and to be with the whole script. It just was weird to see it experienced from the first degree of that, than to see it released that way. It makes sense and everything, they know what they're doing. But yeah, it was unfortunate that it couldn't be longer, at least 3 seasons. The fans are huge with that. They love that show, and they actually petitioned to try to bring it back when like they were trying to do that with a lot of shows. It didn't make it, unfortunately, but I guess there's always a possibility in the future. I know the actors would love to be a part of it again. But it was just very smart comedy and creativity. Again, even the angles of how they cut the inner monologues or fantasies, and then it would be back. And that's what like Light Long Distance we did with that a little bit too. Dawn was brilliant with that and a little ahead of her time, because it was interesting to see the inner monologues as a fantasy, but then come back to reality. And like it was smart, creation of that. But yeah, working with those actors on Don't Trust the Bee was amazing. They are great. It made me realize I would love to do more TV, because it was a hybrid of theater and film coming together, with the overall feeling of being on the soundstage with them, and like the little apartment that they were, and the facades, that was magic behind it. It really puts fuel in my fire. I just like love being a part of that.
So when you do the stuff that you do, what genre would you rather do? Would you rather do comedy? Would you rather do, we'll say, horror? Would you rather do musical? What would you rather do?
Oh, what do I have to pick? No, I really love like dramedy.
Okay.
I love comedy that gives some reality, though, with some drama to it. So that's why I love the hybrid of dramedy, or like just dry humor. I love British humor. But also I think, yeah, just dramedy. Dramedy's fun. It's just fun. You can do a lot with it. I mean, my dream I would love to do is sci-fi. I've done a little, but I'm a Star Trek nerd. I've been a Star Trek nerd since I was a kid. Love TNG. Love the concept of what Roddenberry made, with just a progressive, very equal world in the future, and we try to do what's best for all people. I love the idea behind that. And it'd be fun to just be a part of a world like that and get dressed up with prosthetics, or just a new character of a different species. Like the imagination is endless. And that's also a wonderful thing about that franchise that keeps growing.
So when you look back at it, have you done a lot of auditions for TV, or a lot more of it for movie?
I would say if I really looked on the like a whole list,
Yeah.
probably more for films.
Okay.
Um, it was during the year like 2015, 2016, I really started going up for a lot of TV with the agent I had, who also booked me for American Crime Story and La La Land. And it was so fun. I mean, they're like movies now on TV now, you know, how the streaming
Right.
service. And there's so much content now that it's really good for work for us actors to be a part of, you know. But yeah, it was, yeah, that's about it though.
So that but interesting you say that. You're saying that you're doing you're not really doing live reads anymore. You're actually recording them.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
difficult that is for you? Because I've talked to people. I talked to one yesterday who was big in the 1970s, Lee Purcell, and she said she's used to going in and reading off of somebody, but it's so hard to do it here because you're just looking at a camera and you
Yeah.
have no interaction. And
It
how hard is that?
Well, it's weird, especially if you were trained or grew up in theater, which
Mhm.
is all about energy. It's all about, you know, as funny as it may sound, I shine my light on you and you shine your light on mine.
Right.
And we, you know, a very intimate conversation or scene that we can create from, even if it's improv or whatever. When you take that element away, unless it's like a commercial read where you're just by yourself and it's emotional or, you know, facial expressions, whatever, that works. But when you are supposed to be giving, you know, an actual dialogue with each
Right.
other, eye to eye, you can imagine that. But no, even the greatest Oscar winners, it's going to be hard for, because even when you used to go into the rooms, into the production, the studio rooms or whatever, to go across the person with the casting director, they at least are human and they can give you something back, even if it's deadpan. At least it's something. But to have no one there, it's, you're doing double time now. You have to imagine there is, when you should just be able to focus your own work
Okay.
on what you're doing in the moment. I had a personal experience of this recently where I had a callback for, it was a commercial for a Samsung commercial, but I went in the room for the callback with my new husband on my side and the casting, and we went inside. And they used to be like, for callbacks, you would have maybe 5 to 10 people sitting on a couch with their computers
Mhm.
talking. They're talking to the client somewhere else, but they're still like in the room. And this time, my first experience of this ever, after the pandemic, was that it was just the casting director operating the camera and a computer, no screen towards us, totally against towards the wall to him, and then a voice just comes booming out, please turn around, let me see, like, to do a thing.
Right.
And then I'm just thinking, I feel like I'm almost in a jail, like telling me, but my, like, you know what I mean? It was really just it wasn't prepared. I didn't know that was
Right.
going to
Right.
be the case. It was a little like startling at first. And then just kind of got back into it, of course, focus. But they kept asking us to do stuff, change the scene a little bit here and there. And it was good, but it was just so weird not to have at least one more person who was like the actual casting for the client or whatever.
Right.
But they expect to have this voice booming at us and like just imagine nothing's happening at all. You know, like it was just very weird. So we're trying to adapt. I'm trying to adapt to that. And with auditions for, you know, TV, they're just asking for self tapes. So
Mhm.
luckily, my boyfriend and I, we live together, and he is also an actor, and so he and I can help each other on those
Right.
situations, and I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, it's a new adaptation we have to make, and if it ever changes back, I don't know. I don't think it will, because of the cost effectiveness of it as well. But yeah, it's definitely different than what we've ever been trained for or have experienced before, and I'm gonna miss the old way because it was part of the experience. Like I would go on the lot and I would go see the agent and we would have
Right.
experience, and then I could walk a little bit, you know, with a coffee on the
Mhm.
studio lot of Paramount or Warner Brothers or Disney. And then that's not really happening anymore until you're actually working on the studio lot, you know?
So,
So
in other words, you were prepping for the role in La La Land so well because you were walking on the lot.
I was, yes. I was soaking that in. They wanted a classic Hollywood actress. I was gonna give it to them. Well, what's funny is I was working as a hostess at the time at a hotel in LA, and Emma Stone
Mhm.
would come in for lunch a lot, and so I knew her previously for at least a year consistently knowing her face to face and having conversations with her prior. So it was really fun to play the opposite with her
Oh yeah.
in that scene, because she was really cool. She, you know, she's very humble, she's very down to earth, and she was just like, it was just fun to play with her with that in the moment, because we understood like the reality of it.
Right. So I know a lot of people during the pandemic started doing voiceover work. Did you look into that?
I did. But I focused more on my vocals as a singer.
Okay.
With that was when I started thinking, okay, I really would like to start a at home studio for music and voiceover, because my boyfriend is a voiceover actor. He's really talented. He's trying to get more into that. Um, but and I would like to do more voiceover. I'd like to get more information on how to do that better than just like I've done little things, but we also have a podcast called the Late Night Lockdown, and we would love to also utilize that for that. So it's
Right.
really important, I think, for a lot of artists, even if it's not your like your favorite thing, but just don't limit yourself. Like we are, it's almost like an umbrella effect right now for a lot of artists. You
Right.
know, as you can act, you can sing, if you can, you know, do creative content, if you can create a podcast, if you can create, you know, fun little scripts for TikTok. I mean, it's just, I'm not a huge TikTok fan, but I love the concept that these apps have with the technology for filmmaker or people who are film buffs themselves and love to get creative with filmmaking. You have literally right at the tip of your fingers. It's amazing. Like my 10-year-old brain, if I had that back then, I
Oh
can only
yeah.
imagine what I would be creating at home.
It's
Like
it's
it's amazing
interesting
to
that
me.
you said that you're not a fan of TikTok. Um, because I think about it. I'm an
Yeah.
old radio guy. I worked in radio a
Yeah.
long time.
Awesome.
I moved everything to what I'm doing now. And you have these people that have never had any background or experience, and all of a sudden they do one thing, and
Hmm.
wow, they're everywhere. And I know it's happening for people like me. Are you seeing people that you've never heard of before all of a sudden become forefront in acting or theater or in music? And it's like, wait a minute,
Yeah,
put
it's,
my
I mean,
time in. Why didn't they?
right. I know it is. It's frustrating at times, because money. You know, it's all about how bringing in the money and bringing in the traffic, right?
Right.
So if you have what a million followers or whatever it could be, 50,000 followers, that's going to bring in more ratings per
Right.
se. And as the business side, I get why they do it. Is it right? Is it ethical? I don't know. It does suck that we are kind of pushed aside if you don't have as much. And I don't like playing with the idea of like, oh, I got to get my ratings up. I got to get,
Right.
I just want to create. But from a business side of the industry, you have to at least have a presence growing so that it's something that they can work with when you have your representation or casting can work. Because they ask you now, like I've gone into auditions where they ask at the very end, and how many followers do you have?
Yeah.
And it really it disappoints me, just because it's about that more than the work you just put in. For some, not for all, of course, but for some. And it's just unfortunate that our society and our culture is there instead of honoring the arts more, honoring the communication more, because that's what
Mhm.
it really is when it comes down to, on the different platforms.
It has to be deflating because I guess they're asking you to are you bringing an audience with you is what
Right.
they're looking for.
Right.
So I think it's interesting, but you say the way the arts are being treated, we're noticing across the United States that the first thing that gets cut in school budgets are arts, theater,
Art.
music, stuff like that.
Okay.
And your opinion on that, because I know if a lot of kids didn't have that, they never experience it.
Right. No, I think that is so lethal to our society and to our democracy and to our just livelihoods. You don't have to want to be a famous actor or actress, a thespian or whatever. When you do the arts, it's about opening yourself up and experiencing the arts in a way that it could be helpful for therapy or anxiety. It can be
Mhm.
helpful for self-confidence in children and communication in children who were shy maybe and couldn't open up. I was one of those kids when I was a kid. I loved being creative at home, but when I got into public, I was very like shy and push back, and the theater helped me to speak louder and have diaphragm and projection, and to be accepted and to understand differences and cultural differences and different time frames where how people were treated in different worlds. It helped me to realize, even if it doesn't happen to me, I can still empathize and sympathize for other people who are walking in different shoes in different lives, in different eras, even, because you have to use your imagination
Right.
to try to at least understand a little bit of what that life was like for somebody else. And I think that's so important in today's society, let alone children in early development, because we don't have a lot of empathy or sympathy for society or humans these days, or for animals even too. So I think if we had that, we would have a lot less issues going on in the world. And I mean, budget cuts for arts has been going on since I was a child.
Right. Well, it's
It's
been going on since
always,
I was a child. And that was a lot
yeah,
longer before
exactly.
you.
So it tells you a lot about our culture and society, and I personally believe that needs to change.
Because you mentioned the imagination, and we're noticing, at least from the parents I've talked to and stuff like
Mm,
that, that their kids have lost imagination because all we've done is we've done testing, 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 testing.
yeah,
And we've not let them be creative, and we're losing the creative aspect of what goes on in the school. And people don't understand that you need creativity. If you didn't have
absolutely.
creativity, what would our buildings look like? What would
Right.
our
Yeah, it's
furniture
not
would
just
look like?
TV and film, it's
What our
architecture.
clothes? And everything is related in some way, shape, or form. And to me, it amazes me that they don't see it.
Yeah, I don't understand how. I mean, I can understand if you're in a cave and you're really in your own little isolated bubble, but I don't understand the concept that you can't try to understand that it helps people and it's helpful for society.
Right.
It's helpful for children, especially children. I mean, I valued the time that I used to play with my cousins in our yard outside safely, from any
Right.
strangers or cars, but just to use that imagination. No TV. I mean, we had TV, but we didn't choose to watch it. We wanted to play, the playtime. That's what acting is. It's playing the part, playing the scene. You're playing with the ideas of the what if, and that helps the brain to, as young adults or kids, to really make decisions for themselves, especially later. And like I said, have confidence in themselves later on. It's huge. And these are all studied in data to statistics, excuse me, on for years, for decades. And also speech impediment, which I had as well, and I still
Uh-huh.
work on it. But like, having wrote dialogue or lyrics when I sang, or music, helped me to speak clearly, helped me to have diction. All these things that are lost on a lot of kids these days, or hardly are taught anymore. Yeah, it really. I don't have children myself, but I have nieces and nephews, and I really feel for them, because I hope that they at least get that from home.
Right.
But that's never guaranteed either.
Yeah.
It's not, like I said, it's not just the entertainment world. It's like you said, architects, fashion designers, you know,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. It is. It's just a shame. So, what do you have coming up that we'll be able to see you in?
So I have an independent film called Second Chances, written and starring Ryan Ochoa and directed by David Vonghouse Jr. He was just working on Spider-Man No Way Home. That's coming out next year, I believe, they haven't given a specific date, but I think in the spring for 2023. It was a lot of fun to work on. And then I have a short film called A Tale of Earl Grey. It was a kind of, without saying too much, kind of Western sci-fi. It was really fun.
Oh,
It was a
I
really,
thought it was about tea there for a minute. I didn't know.
yeah, I know. Earl Grey,
Yeah.
hot. No, unfortunately, I do love the name. I don't know. I honestly don't know why they named it that too. I always wanted to ask the director that. But yeah, directed by Michael King and written by Kevin Kapalis, and that one is coming out. They're still in post production, but we're trying to hit the festivals with that one in time.
Okay.
And then the Film Buff series, which I told you about, which was on Mondays on Instagram, Film Buff Show, and we're actually just fundraised and got the full amount that we needed for the second season of the film series to start. So
Oh,
that should
okay.
start future. But anywhere on my platforms, you'll always see stuff coming up. So always keeping busy and keeping creative.
Well, Amy, it was a total pleasure to be able to talk to you today. I really
You
enjoyed
will.
this.
Me too.
Uh,
Thank you for the conversation.
and I wish you the best of luck, and I'd love to have you back on again in the
I would love that.
future to talk more. Maybe not even about acting, but it's just great to
Sure.
talk to you
Yeah.
about what's going on in the world and getting another perspective, especially from someone out west, because I'm here back on the East Coast. I'm south in the
Right.
city of Pittsburgh. So
Pittsburgh. Right.
again, it's a balance of trying to figure out what's going on in other parts of the country.
Well, yep. It's good to communicate, man. It's good to listen and communicate with each other. When we live in this one country, we all need to respect and need and enjoy that with each other. You know what I mean?
So, Amy, you have a great rest of your day, and thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye bye. Hey, a big thank you goes out to AIMEE CONN. Really enjoyed the conversation today. Hopefully you did too, and hopefully we can have her back on the program again. So, Amy, thank you very much, and everyone else, thank you for watching and listening to this edition of the Bill Alexander Show.
Thank you for listening to The Bill Alexander Show. The Bill Alexander Show is a $1 Million Baby production. For more information, go to thebillalexandershow.com.